Yeah, thank you for asking. So, without going into the long story, as an employee, I was never in corporate. I know your little intro talks about, people who have survived corporate America. I never did corporate. I was always into small businesses, but and for better or for worse, I often seemed to manifest, I guess, if you will, very toxic workplaces, like places
Ooh.
where, yes. And I mean, I've got some doozies of stories that I don't know, up to you if you want me to go there, but I can at least
Oh,
start by saying
let's.
things like, oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, everything from, just your typical sort of sexual, like sexist type of things where maybe I was looked down upon because I was a woman or a girl. They would often say that about me. This is my early 20s, by the way, so
Yeah.
I was young and certainly naive and certainly inexperienced, but just treated differently than my male counterparts. All the way through to another workplace where I did have true, pretty severe sexual harassment.
Mm-hmm.
I also worked at a place where I was not targeted by a specific boss, but I had a specific boss who loved to corner people literally in a corner and just scream at them and use profanity at them and call them bad names.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and oh yeah, and one time I caught her doing this in a stairwell to with one of my colleagues, and I'm just the kind of person who's like, excuse me, like, what are you doing? You really shouldn't be yelling at someone like that. And of course she turned right around and started yelling at me, and I was like, okay, peace out. And I was never one to tolerate it for very long, because of the way I'm wired. But I just kept kind of going to this weird toxic place to another toxic place until I finally found a company. This was, years later, and long story of different journeys. But I ended up working with a company that was amazing. And I'll give them a little shout out. They're called Aging Wisdom, and they're in Seattle, Washington. And they do senior care for people who want to age in place in their homes. And they do casework and stuff like that. And I was their office manager, and they had an amazing place to work. They had a great culture. They had people who really cared. They had leadership that really cared. They treated everyone with equity, and it was just like this wildly refreshing experience. And I just kind of was like, wow, that's amazing. But now, cut that off. I ended up going off and becoming a business coach. I'm very entrepreneurial. I was wired to be an entrepreneur without a doubt. I'm a much better leader than I am a follower. And so I had to do my own thing. So I eventually became a business coach. And then this morphed into Zephyr because my clients were small businesses with very small teams, and they would really struggle with hiring. They would struggle to either take the time because it's extremely time consuming, or they would make very fast, swift hiring decisions because they just need to fill the role right now. So the
Yeah.
first person with a good resume, but then that person wouldn't end up working out well because they didn't blend, they didn't align well with the core values and the mission and the culture of that company and of that owner. So I started doing it for my clients as an added service, as doing the recruiting, taking it off their plate. And I was getting really good success, and I realized that, like, I had this knack for kind of matchmaking, and seeing the bigger picture, and not just looking at the resume, but like being able to uncover who that person kind of is as a person, and what their intrinsic motivations are and what their true core values are, and then aligning them, right?